Hey, the topic this week is that we are all one. How many times have we heard that? Is it true? Well, perhaps one of the greatest lines in all scripture, it says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. Maybe the problem is when we think we're the branch manager, but I am the vine, ye are the branches. It's just one more metaphor to try to drive into our thick skulls, our very thick skulls, that we are of one substance, one spirit, one essence. And I don't know about you guys, but I have an inkling that the greatest experience of misery or suffering or hell on earth is the feeling of separation and disconnection. Disconnection seems to be a psychological, emotional, spiritual disease, doesn't it? And there are a lot of diseases that really drive that point home, and many of us can relate to that. But we know that healing and joy and repair and restoration comes when we are restored of the feeling of connection, when we feel connected to all life. And so, as mortal material beings, we are prone to a belief, a thought system. We might even call it a mental virus, if you will, that we are separate from our fellows. And this just leads to a host, continuing continuum of thoughts and ideas, actions and behaviors that separate us, that cut us off. So now I refer to one of the great metaphors in the yoga world. It says our greatest enemy, the number one affliction from which all other afflictions stem, is avidya. And avidya means we forget who we are. We forget that we are the branches from one common vibe. That works as well. I am the vibe, ye are the branches. And this is, it sure would be nice if the realization of our cosmic connection came back all at once and was permanent and fixed. And yet on Earth, we mortals, we're always sort of in this tug of war between a feeling of connection and separation. And yet every single day through our practice, we develop more and more of this feeling of connection. Now, one metaphor that's commonly used is we're all drops in the very same ocean. And if you take a separate drop, like a raindrop, and you drop it from the clouds, it lands on the ocean and then it mixes in, it returns home. And yet, as my spiritual friend Emmett Fox says, there's something slightly flawed about that very common metaphor, which is beautiful, and yet the raindrop that drops back into the ocean loses its individuality. And our individuality is a precious, glorious, God-given thing. And what we are really doing is we are dollops of consciousness, if you will, that are continuously expanding. And there are times when our consciousness shrinks so small that we feel disconnected and isolated. But as we continue in this practice, there are moments of great expanse of our consciousness. We call these spiritual awakenings or spiritual experiences, and we really like them a lot. But Emmett Fox says a better metaphor is that we are sparks thrown off from a great fire. And a spark from a fire can grow into fire, and it's of exactly the same essence, and it keeps its own individual nature. These are all metaphors. I am the branch, or I'm the vine, you're the branch. We're raindrops, we're sparks from a fire. But be that as it may, it's all driving home this point. And sooner or later, every time we meditate, every time we do this practice, this membrane of separation and isolation that cuts us off is going to dissolve and dissipate. Yogananda, another great sage saint, he uses the metaphor of we are like a bottle thrown into the ocean that's filled with seawater, and yet it's very tightly plugged. And sooner or later in our meditation, our plug is undone, and there's this joyous, glorious, refreshing, restoring feeling of connection with all that is, because underneath all of our seeming appearances of of separation. Even our visual faculty makes us look out into the world and see 8 billion other units that seem to be very separate, especially in this day and age. There seems to be about half the people that disagree with us, and yet we simply must overcome that. We must overcome it in belief, in action, in behavior, in trust, in surrender. And that's what we're doing. But remember that each and every one of our individual consciousnesses can grow to become the fullness of all consciousness. And at that time, we won't be ourselves anymore. We'll be something so much larger and greater than our current mortal sense of self. We might even say paradoxically that whoever we think we are right now is the smallest version of who we are. And as we grow in consciousness, this identity will always be available to us, but it just may not be as interesting and fun as the one that we're growing into. So he is the vine, we are the branches, and let's enjoy that reality. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.